You sure? Take a listen, take a listen. And for those who are tuning in and have decided to play halfway through, welcome. We are discussing Marxist theory and society. This is part of the book that you are seeing in front of your screen. And for those who are listening on the radio, if you look on the Black Social Scientists or Caste Society or on the YouTube Instagram page, you will see the book. It's called Diet with a Social Scientist. Question asked to a criminologist. That was written by me 2 years ago. So we are doing snippets of it, and this one we are doing Marxist theory and society. Before we left off, we were talking about transferring from the agrarian system to the economic market system. All right. Now we ended off, and I'm going to pick up where we end off and then proceed afterwards. Now we were stating that capitalist societies use their powers to create injustice and inequality within the have-nots. American, British, and European society has shifted from an agrarian to a market economy. Agrarian, I keep on pronouncing that wrong. A-G-R-A-R-I-A-N, to a market economy, generating exploitative and oppressive effects on education and opportunities that result from having a basic high school education. There are 54 million adults in the US lacking a college degree, and 35 million of those have no college education at all. In the combined European structure, it is over 100 million. So there are numerous aspects of life, including effects on one's social and economic status, if an individual lacks or has limited education. So there are some implications that's assigned if you lack some or any basic education. One must understand that it is hard to get a decent paying job without some high school education. Not to say, remember, not to say you cannot get a job with an high school or without one, but it's just harder. And hence why many people go into self-employment, and the original system that was in place before Marxist theory officially took over, capitalism and consumerism, we were a producing market. We produced our own. Now we were a consumption market. Now, one must understand that it is hard to get a decent paying job without some higher education. If it is on-job training, the individual is nevertheless being educated and trained to do the job. So apprenticeship, on-job trainings, you go down to the mechanic every day, you are learning on the job. So by default, the same way you have many musicians who cannot read a musical note, but they will be able to do their thing in the piano or the keyboard, but they cannot tell you an A minor from a B. So it does not say it's not possible. It's just, in some instances, some countries, some placement, it is rather difficult. And then in the opposite side, you have educated people who cannot get a job. There's many lawyers and doctors in many countries who cannot get a job. And there are many people who migrate to other countries who were lawyer, doctor, teachers, construction, this, that, all these things. But when they go to this other country, they are, for example, cleaning toilets. And this is a medical trained doctor who had a highly paid medical job, who was good at, he or she good at their job in their respective country. Now they have, not to say nothing wrong with cleaning, but do remember, understand the aspect in which I'm saying, how migrating can cause that. This learning not only advances their job title and wages, but also intensifies the life of their family and their surroundings. So the high paid job, or at least a paying job in many aspects, and high paying is dependent again on what is the minimum wage in your country. Even the community and the taxes. Even the community will benefit, as now he or she is investing capital into local shops, generating and returning money into local venues. For example, Mary got a job, John got a job. John now can go to the farmer's market that has Mrs. Jones stuff, buy some potato from Mrs. Jones, who lives 3 blocks over, 3 streets over, and Mrs. Jones is then be able to use that money to go to the farm store owned by Mr. John and buy her fertilizers and so on and so forth. so it can then be generated, regenerated, and beneficial employment. Conflict theories place considerable conflict theories place considerable emphasis on economic power as a podium to manage the enforcement branch of the state. It was further identified that social control is more found in unequal societies. So social controls, lack of movements, lack of speech, lack of basic necessities, lack of the ability to logically and critically think and assess a person, a thing, an action, a deed, a risk. Capitalists are the owners, while the workers, non-owners, are exploited by the capitalists for financial gain. I regurgitate. Capitalists are the owners, while the workers, non-owners, are exploited by the capitalists for financial gain. This happens in small businesses too. So it's not just the big major corps or government entity or organizations or non-profit. You have the guy with the corner store that exploits his employees. All this is accomplished by workers while returning their wages to the owners for the purchase of the same goods they produce. For those who didn't hear earlier, I mentioned how you're a farmer and you sell a dozen tomatoes for $1 to a supermarket, and then when you go out to a supermarket, they're selling one of those tomatoes for $1. So they're making 11, 12 plus tax on your money. Okay, just an example right there. So all this is accomplished by workers while returning their wages to the owners for the purchase of the same goods they produce. Bongers, which is an author, I'm going to give his reference later on down, definition of capitalism explained as the extent to which an economy, and I quote, is based upon exchange. So Bonger's definition of capitalism is, and I quote,